as individuals or as HR managers or as leaders of leaders of the current today's leaders or the future leaders, how we can look at diversity and inclusion, right? How can it how does it relate to us? So a little bit about myself. Okay. Officially my name is actually Rajalakshmi. Okay. And why am I talking about this? So I found that when I called myself Rajalakshmi in a city like Mumbai where I grew up, people who found it very uncomfortable. They used to, slot me as a typical South Indian, and that kind of a stereotype, right? And Geeta is another name which my parents used have named me, and that is my calling name. So I found that Geeta to be a little more you know it doesn't specify what language I speak. It doesn't, so I found that it was easy on the lips. People are finding it easier, and as I started working, and I started working with corporate with clients, or whether people from across global stakeholders, I found that Geeta was an easily pronounceable name. So that's me. So officially Rajalakshmi Krishna, but personally I'm Geeta Krishna. I'm a certified coach in the sense that I love coaching and mentoring people. I believe in the philosophy of teaching people how to fish rather than fishing for them or feeding them. And I love solving problems. I love creating things. I always create, nurture a new hobby. Every 2 3 years I try to pick up on something new to learn. And I love sharing laughter. I love a workplace where everybody laughs together, eats together. Okay, so that's my philosophy of a happy workplace. Okay, so enough about me. So, what I'll be talking about in this next 1 hour, or rather, I won't try to take the entire 1 hour because I'd like to keep some time for a dialogue between us, question and answers, right? So, I'll touch upon the difference between diversity and inclusion because it's very intermingled, and people club them together and they think they are one and the same, and actually they aren't, right? Uh, what do we mean by inclusion and the term belonging, right? When we talk say new normal, what is so big? What's the big deal about new normal? Is it just the mask? Is it just social distancing? What else is the new normal, right? What is the new normal? What is the outcome of the new normal, right? What is the impact of the new normal? How do we think companies would need to run? And at an individual level, what are the behaviors we would need to change, right, in the new normal? And why DNI? Why is it going to be not just a nice to have, or like, when you are in a conference, HR conference, typically everybody have their wine glass or something, and they'll say that, oh, even we do DNI. So it becomes like a conversation, right? But it's no longer that. It's going to be very absolutely critical if companies need to survive, and we'll look at that now. So here I would like to do a very small exercise. Of course, let's see, look at who fits the description. Okay, so let's see that there is a opening, right, of a vice president product management for a company that produces designer bags. So they're looking for a VP. This company, maybe it could be a Lavi or a bag, all these bag companies. Okay, so which of these two people would get picked, right? Now typically if you give it to the traditional corporate panel, right? So you have someone like this. Okay, as you can clearly see, it's a person of a particular ethnicity, individual of a particular age group, right? And then you have someone like this, right? Now, you and I both know that typically in a company, which type of person do you see more, right? Definitely not the one on the left, right? Mostly someone like somebody on the right is somebody you would see in a company, you'll see as a colleague, or you'll see as a VP, right? Now let's understand who are these women really, right? So if I were to look at this person, right, who's this person? She's actually Pabi Bain Rabri, right? She is from this village called Bhadroi in Kutch. So she has come from a very typical background where she was not allowed to be educated because otherwise she won't get married. And today she's a very renowned entrepreneur, and she runs this company called Pabi Bain, pabibain.com. It's basically there are tribal women who do this embroidery. It's very specialized, her own patented you know rubbery embroidery, which is a tradition which is very specific to this particular village, and she's keeping it alive, right? And what is very important to know is that she's a designer of the bag known as a pubby bag. Okay, and it's like many Bollywood and Hollywood celebrities, they love to they like to own a pubby bag and say, okay, this is the bag I want. Okay, so she's actually pubby bin rubbery. Okay, let's look at the other person, right? Who is this person actually? And you will realize that this is just an unknown image from a public domain website, right? So you, this is one simple example, but you realize that how we have certain stereotypes in mind. For example, a beautiful girl immediately conjures up, like a Cinderella who's fair with, golden hair and blue eyes, and these are the stereotypes, right? You have in mind that somebody beautiful has to be like this. Somebody smart means somebody who speaks good English is smart, right? So we have all these specific, uh, brainwashing that has happened to us from our childhood, that has that reinforce these tropes, and they tell us, okay, this is what means by beauty, this is what means by smartness or intelligence. So this is what we are taught, right, from childhood. And what happens is we carry it throughout our lives, and we even pass it down to our children. So if a child says, I just want to, few years take a off from studies and want to visit places and just strum a guitar, as parents we'll just throw a fit and say, no, you better do engineering. So these are the things, so we are told that, somebody who doesn't do engineering or somebody who wants to do that is a loser. So this is what I wanted to say, that we are fed a lot on what is called as unconscious bias. So, and unconscious bias is a lot like jealousy, right? When today, when you use Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, and we see somebody who's successful, or a dear friend is looking suddenly slim, you suddenly feel so envious, right? So unconscious bias is also like that. We wouldn't like to admit it, but we are often unaware of it. It's like something at the back. You would never know what is on your back, right? Unless someone points it out to you. So unconscious bias is a very insidious thing. It's been fed into us from childhood, and that is shapes our way we think and the way we perceive other people also. So let's look at technical definitions of these terms, diversity and inclusion. Okay. Now these slides also have deliberately made it very colorful, so that so those of us from the India time zone, we don't feel sleepy. It's a typical afternoon, lazy afternoon, winter afternoon. So you'll see a lot of colors are put. I hope they're not too jarring. So technically speaking, what is diversity? Diversity are traits. So there's physical or certain things that make up our, the way we speak, the way we talk, walk, of outward traits and characteristics that make us unique, right? So what it means from a workplace perspective, it means that a company that hires people who are from different backgrounds, right? Okay, maybe different gender, different there's a variety, right? And so probably where if it is India, we'd say, okay, it cannot be only from the same state. It should be representative of different states, of different languages and cultures of India, right? If it's a global company, obviously you look at different nationalities, right? So there are different aspects of what make up diversity. It is just the variety we are talking about, right? Now let's look at what is inclusion, because they go hand in hand, but they are actually not the same, right? So what is inclusion? So technically speaking, inclusion is nothing but the way we behave or the social norms, right, that we do that ensure people feel welcome. So it's what causes others to feel that, do I belong this, am I accepted or not? So if for example, in a particular society, if women are not allowed to speak, or you're not allowed to speak loud, right, automatically if you have a loud voice, you won't feel like you're part of it, right? So the behaviors and accepted norms, what is allowed, right, that makes people feel, okay, am I part of this or not? That is inclusion, right? So our SHRM, it defines inclusion as separately from diversity as achievement of a work environment in which all individuals are treated fairly, respectfully, have equal access to opportunities and resources, and can contribute fully to the organization's success. This is a very, very significant aspect, right? It is not just having variety of people, but making sure all are treated, all feel welcome, and everybody feels they have a say, and they are allowed to speak or allowed to offer an opinion, and their opinions matter, right? That is inclusion. So, very simply, diversity is based on who people are and where they are from, and inclusion is about how conscious or unconscious behaviors can impact others' sense of belonging. How much you feel that either you belong or not. That is the inclusiveness of that place, right? The inclusion, that is the feeling that you get. And so, inclusion is how you feel, right? So, most of the time, inclusion starts in school, right? We have certain personalities, and we feel that there is a specific behaviors which teachers allow. You automatically conform to that, and you start following that so that you are also accepted. Here I would like to talk a little bit about my childhood. So when I was in class 2, my parents relocated to a different part of the city in Mumbai, and I joined a school. Okay, so the school is a very good school, excellent school, and I had some of the best teachers. The only thing was, most of the people in the students belonged to a particular background. They were all from, the merchant background. Many of them spoke. The school was founded by a particular people who speak a particular language. So everybody used to speak that language only in the school. So much so that even while eating or while they are talking, they used to talk about food items which belong to only their culture. So I used to feel incredibly left out. Okay, and with a name like Rajalakshmi, which used to was completely mispronounced and misspelt as well. It used to be written in different ways. So so I never felt like I belonged. For example, even the teachers used to like students who used to score, the top 5 rankers or top 10 rankers. So they were the ones favored. Or if you were a student who topped in athletics, who you stood first in running race or, any of the sports, then you were considered a star pupil. So I was none of these. I was average in my studies. I was pathetic in sports. Like, so people used to, say this, that, you should, when you defeat everybody, you out everybody. Okay, you can do that. You can catch Rajalakshmi last. Even if you are bone tired, you can catch her because she runs so slow. So I was a laughing stock. So I again that made me didn't make me feel too happy, right? Till one of the teachers discovered that I could sing well, and all of a sudden I became very much favored by everybody because I sing well, right? So sometimes you feel that so I grew up feeling that maybe singing is not so great. I should have been better in sports. I should have been better in my studies, right? I am not so great because I don't have that in me to be successful. So I somehow got this feeling that I would be successful only if I am a particular personality and I am always high in academics. Right. So this is what happens, So inclusion actually begins a lot in the way we are brought up in our school, in our workplace. A lot of places is where inclusion is when it starts impacting you. So here are a few, things why people would feel excluded. Right. For example, in typical school, in let's take work, right? So you have a couple of colleagues, and they all want to catch up over a beer. So when I was I know many women who have a kid, so they need to pick up a kid after work, and they say, no, I can't stay back because I have to pick up my kid. So automatically that person gets excluded, right, in this particular activity. Then you have, or some guys say that let's have do a round of golf this Saturday. And or typically, in drinks, if a guy doesn't drink, everybody makes fun of him, they poke jokes at him, right? Or if everybody eats non-veg and one person eats vegetarian, they make fun and they say that, oh, what, you don't eat like paneer samajh ke kha jao. There are jokes like that, right? Why do you want to eat? Why can't you taste it, right? So these are the things which you make you feel as if you're excluded, that you are not wanted, right? Like, let's say there's a great opportunity, and it's only possible if you go there to a particular location. So these things, right, when you fixate and say that this job can only happen in this location, right, you automatically exclude very good talent who cannot be there. So if you don't do have inclusive policies, you automatically lose that entire group of talent, right? And we only want IIT graduates. I mean, why bhai? I mean, what if this job doesn't require you to be an IITian? So many times there are these traditions which have been passed on from generation to generation by managers, policies, and these are actually making people feel excluded, right? I would like to talk about this term which we all know about, fear of missing out, which is a very big thing, where you feel that everybody is doing something. Oh, I'm the only one not doing it, so you feel that you're missing out on something, right? And this is a one very important aspect we need to realize, that causes a lot of makes you feel excluded. Here some examples I've given, that typical workplace environment or culture that makes people feel that I don't belong here. Like, it's supposing there's no work from home. What if you have an elderly at home? I'm not trying to say that only women need to work from home. Okay, there are many examples of men who do their equal share of parenting, who are interested in taking care of their kids, right? So if you don't have work from home, you're automatically saying that I need to commute, go all the way there, and then have to work there. What if I have a disability and I find it inconvenient traveling, right? There are many things. There are people with autoimmune diseases, who cannot really going to work, and today, especially with corona, and you're putting yourself at risk. So if you don't have work from home, of course that has changed now, but there are many companies which still follow no work from home, strictly 9:30 to 6:30. There are clock watchers. I was in a company actually very recently, about 10 years back. I was in a company where we had a software called Sapiens, which used to sit on our system and used to see how much hours you're working, right? Which used to watch what you're doing, which made very everybody uncomfortable, right? No provision for the left-handed. I remember in my where I used to teach software in one in NIIT. So we used to have chairs which were very very those flip chairs, which flip on the right hand side, the desk, the tabletop flips. So there used to be students who were left-handed, and they used to say that this is inconvenient, right? So sometimes we don't realize it, but many whether the door handle, everything is designed for assuming people are the right. Limited or no accessibility. We want to hire people with disabilities, but we don't have the environment which is conducive for them. By favoritism, here I'm talking about favoring certain type of people more, certain behaviors more, or people from a certain economic background. We pick up those, or people who speak our language, we like them more, right? And people belonging to a particular cultural group, they end up hanging together and forming cliques, right? uh, Again, promotions or work growth environments, growth chances or opportunities are only given to specific personality types, right? So there's a lot of perception driven, and it's based on personality, and then you're not giving it to everyone based on certain common criteria. So these are a few examples of why people may feel excluded, and it really demands revisiting, right? And what happens, there are many other things. I would like to here give an example. There was a time when I used to manage an e-learning team. So the e-learning team, where we used to develop learning content. So we had three categories of people. We had the writers, so the instructional designers, had to write content in English. So they were all educated in English, and they had a good vocabulary. They could talk about all topics in the world. They were well read, and they were a different class altogether. And then we had graphic designers. Okay, so Pune especially, most graphic designers are best of the lot. They come from a particular school. Okay, the creative arts school, which is Marathi speaking. So I had a lot of designers who were Marathi speaking, but they were fantastic people. And if you look at their work, it was impeccable and amazing talent. But when I used to see the conversations, I could clearly see the divide, right? I could see that the instructional designers, writers used to hang together. The graphic designers used to have their own group. And then I realized that this is causing a kind of a, making people feel excluded. So that is when I changed the seating arrangement. I made a writer sit next to a designer and I mixed it up. And I made sure that, even when I used to have my team composition, I had people from different parts of India. So I used to put one person from the south next to a person in the west, and mix hodgepodge, and make sure that even a Republic Day we used to uh, talk a little bit about our language or our customs and educate everyone around. But status is very important, because even in schools, sometimes as ambitious parents, we put our children in schools which are above our social status, and we find our children struggling because many of these children have expensive things. Similarly, in office, at work, we see that happening. Cliques of the old boys club, and especially in teams like finance, accounting is changing drastically. And happy to see many women are in finance today, in technical support, in software infrastructure support, where you need to work late to fix somebody's laptop. But during my time, and I'm talking about my time when I was much younger, we had a lot of struggle there, right? Ageism, right? People about a particular age, they don't see them in that particular role, right? Physical appearance, like being your complexion, your weight, your physical appearance, everything is counted, right? And there are jokes around you, your weight, and you have to laugh at it, but then that it's not cool. So internally you feel I don't belong there, and there's a loneliness. So that's what is meaning of feeling excluded. So let's go to the new normal. What is this new normal? What really is the new normal, right? And it's every second day people talk about new normal, and so you know new normal typically is a general term that is the way economy or a society or the world settles, right? It changes there's a major shift in the way things happen following a crisis. uh, it completely differs from what it was before the situation, right? There's a before and an after. That after is called a new normal, right? When things completely change. So today we know corona has done what digitalization, I mean, whether everything else disruption today, one thing that has caused is the COVID-19 virus, right? It's a mass disruption. You have virtual homework. We know how much it has blurred, right? I'm actually having a meeting, and I'm seeing people talk. I'm just saying, hang on a minute, I'm going and turning off the gas, right? Or I'm seeing who's at the door. My husband, he takes a meeting and then he says, hey guys, I'll be back, I have to do these dishes, right? So we have household chores, and we're doing all sorts of things between work and family and managing. And many of I know many people manage kids and their school, and it's crazy, right? We live in a very crazy world today. So there is no concept of a work life balance. It's like some time for work, some for life, some for home, some for kids. So we are juggling with different things. You know, and of course, safety, social distancing is a very clear priority. And if you look at it today, what does it matter? I mean, where I work, which company I work today, right? I can work for any company in the world. I don't need to work in Pune. I can work for any organization, right? It's my thought that counts, because even I don't go and travel to the office in Pune anymore. Since March 16th, I've been operating from home, and I'm sure many of you have been. So I mean, it's really begs the question that why do we say that we need candidates only from a particular location, right? So today, work is location agnostic, person agnostic, and very importantly, appearance agnostic, right? So you really don't need, so long as you get the work done, you are able to produce results, it doesn't matter, right? So that is one thing as that has taught us is the coronavirus, right? Okay, there is also a paradigm shift in this, right? Do we really need office space? And these are the questions which companies are asking. I'm sure many of you are attending webinars where these kind of philosophies are discussed, and many companies have actually put it on practice. They've released a lot of real estate space. Do we really need to fix working hours? I mean, do we need to say 9:30 you log in, 6:30 you log out? Doesn't make any sense, right? Would gender, sexual preference, appearance really matter? Because today the beauty is that I may be disabled, I can still work my home. In my house, I have all the things that make enable me to work comfortably. So why should I travel so much? right? And in through so much inconvenience I reach office. Or if I'm I have some disease, I can, still, I mean, if, I'm immune, right? Or if, I am transgender, right? I don't want to travel. I mean, because our society is very critical. The way they snigger, they laugh, right? All these deriding comments. So what if I work from home? Doesn't matter really, right? And does it matter that I wear pajamas instead of trousers? I know many many people who wear a blazer and then below they have shorts, and they have their chappals, right? It doesn't matter really. Like all those dress codes we learned in office, right? You have to be well, you have to, I can understand being presentable and hygienic and clean, right? But we no longer have to define to this extent, right? The way we used to define, right? Of course, virtual working is a given, right? With the new normal, virtual working has made it very necessary. But very, very important thing to realize is in 2020, a whole new generation is joining the workforce, which is called the Gen Z population. These are the guys who are born 1999 and above, right? After 1999. And my generation is a Gen X, right? So you have a lot of Gen Xers and boomers. Okay, boomers are, who were born in the 60s. So a lot of that generation is slowly reducing, right? So when you look at the pyramid today, more and more CEOs and all those, you'll find them eventually the millennials, the people, the 80s bonds, they will soon start assuming the top positions, right? And then you have the Gen Z taking over, right? In the next few years, you will see Gen Z population. And it's very important to realize that they are a very different generation, completely differently brought up, and we need to understand that. I'll be talking a little bit more about the Gen Z. I have two daughters who are Gen Z. Need for more digitalization. Obviously, we use Uber, we use a lot of tools today. We do home banking. The last 6 months, amount of transactions we have done online, everything, shopping, everything is digital, right? So it's more and more important that whatever work in the workplace, we used to do things like, mentoring somebody or interacting or having fun with someone, we need to have it more virtual, right? We need to find out ways to get embrace digitalization. Also, we need some top talent, which we were included. We didn't include them. They've got excluded earlier because of all these practices I talked about, right? So we need to now see how do we get them. So well, let's talk about the Gen Z profile, right? People, as I said, who were born after 99, right? So you can see that, when the internet, when they were born, internet was already there. They don't understand us when we say, okay, in our, in our time, we never had the internet. They don't understand that. It's like our parents used to say, in our times, we used to, walk barefoot to school. We can't understand that, right? Similarly, they don't understand the world without the internet. They're digitally savvy, hyper connected, right? And very savvy. I mean, uh, I know my daughters, when from a very young age, they could fix stuff for us and tell us what to do, right? I learned Instagram and how to upload photos. I still take my daughter's help. I mean, I'm useless at that. Virtual communication, collaboration, interaction, and engagement. They are the people who know the virtual world, right? Everything they do is virtual. They are very multi-talented, they know multiple things, right? You think that they are studying, my daughter, for instance, she's doing a PhD in bioinformatics, but she plays the guitar, she sings very well. And she recently brought an audio interface, she's going to record some songs and, or play live. She also does drawing. She recently went on a campaign where she was accepting drawing commissions, and she was making money for the migrant workers. She also went and so today's children have, I mean, today's Gen Z, I won't call them children, I talk, pardon my language. Today's the Gen Z workforce are very aware of many things, and they want to do their bit for the society. When you'll see many of them volunteering for different things, right? They are also independent thinkers and learners, right? You can't tell them to think, like you can't condition them so easily, because the source of information they get is from multiple places. You're not the only one who can influence them, right? So that means they'll form their own opinion. So even if you tell them, don't speak to these people, don't speak to that people, they're going to turn back to you and ask you why not, right? They are very aware of issues like ethics, right? Unjust, what is unjust, all the US politics, you can see most of the Gen Zs would have been watching with bated breath who won, right? Social impact of global warming, animal testing, many things. They are very, very aware. My daughters only buy makeup from certain companies. They refuse to buy products from certain companies where they feel that they don't have good policies for labor policies, or they do animal testing. So today's Gen Z are extremely uh, well aware, right? And if you want to attract them to your workforce, then you have to think differently. So what they do want in the workplace, obviously they like variety, versatility. They like flexibility to work the way they like. Like if you tell them no, you work only 9 to 6, you're going to lose them, right? They want financial stability. They're not the type, not like the millennials, right, who will keep job hopping. These guys will stick on. They will stay in the same job because what they want is really an anchor. So the Gen Z, and this I'm not talking about my kids alone. I'm telling you about a lot of statistics. You'll read a lot of insights about Gen Z. You'll realize they want a steady income, and they want a company which will allow them to follow other creative hobbies. Right? They're the kind who may not won't mind doing a steady job, and then on the weekends they may drive an Uber, or maybe do some gigs, musical gigs somewhere, or once in a month. So they are the kind of generation who want to do different things. And so long as your company offers them different roles, different opportunities on a constant basis, they will stick on, right? Validation and appreciation, you really need to point and see their work and appreciate it. See, in my generation, a lot of times, it was only given to a certain type of people, right? But Gen Z, they feel everybody should get the appreciation. Anybody, irrespective of who they are, if they've done a good job, they should get that validation and appreciation, right? And obviously they want their voice heard, right? They demand equal opportunity for all, and a just and fair workplace. uh, I don't know how to say this, but you know in okay, so in my mother's generation, right, whatever she earned, she had to give her entire income to my father, and my father will manage the finance, and that's how the house ran, right? The woman couldn't say, hey, I earn more than you, I want to send money to my parents. No, why should I be answerable to you? But she couldn't do that, right? But she never did it because she thought that is the norm. She thought, okay, I've been taught by my parents that need to give the money, everything to the guy, right? So similarly, most of the generations earlier to the Gen Z were trained or to condition to behave in a particular way. But these people, as you said, they have access and they're influenced by multiple places. So they will demand inclusion, right? They will demand inclusive practices much more, right? And so let's look at where diversity and why inclusion along with diversity, that's very important, and why is it important? Let's look at that. Let's give an example. Let's say you want to hire people. Okay, you have a charter that says, okay, we have to hire from different religions, different cities, different ethnic backgrounds, and you do all that. But then all your holidays belong to a particular religion only, right? Most of your holidays, you just have one or two, right? uh, then that you are excluding people who need a holiday, who also want to celebrate, right? um, I see that quite often, that there is a particular way women are made to told that they need to appear, they need to look like this in order to become, to grow, right? There's a lot of conditioning taught, like like finishing schools are there, but uh, many times there are women who are forced to adopt masculine traits like aggression, or uh, you know you know being a badass, that kind of qualities. They feel that that will make you so or there are women who are very subservient, who listen, okay, who listen to the males. It's a very patriarchal culture, right? So then if you are going to hire women but not allow them to have the voice, or not going to accept them the way they are, then you are not including them, right? The other thing realize is, we must realize is English. So many a times we are taught that good English, so communication is equal to English. That's not true, right? Communication is not equal to the language you speak. Communication is about getting a message conveyed, uh, getting people together, right? Rallying people together, and making things happen. That is actually communication, right? uh, but Today English is your vocabulary, which school you come from, that takes so much precedence that people from a vernacular background or people who come from native speaking, they're completely ignored. And so there it automatically becomes a stereotype that you speak very impeccable English, you will be, you will grow faster. Again, you're hiring, we already talked about IT, right? So I won't touch them, because you look at pedigree of college, and there's also grading. Sometimes you hire a candidate from lesser known college, you immediately grade them a level lower than a candidate you hire from Ivy League. So that's also a disparity we do, a discrimination we do, which also causes inclusion, which also causes exclusion, right? We do this, we separate. So how can we build a more inclusive work culture? I mean, here are a few things, but of course there are many things. But what I like to highlight is the second part, right? Crowdsourcing, because like I told you, Gen Z likes their ideas heard. If we are going to have this closed door decisions where a few set of managers, based on perception, they decide what should be done, right? Rather than listening to people and taking their opinions, understanding what they want, right? If they don't start seeking inputs and ideas from others, that is the culture that needs to happen, right? Culture, as you all know, it's a combination of behaviors that are perpetrated through reinforcement or training, or how you hire and how you reward, right? What is the culture you are encouraging, that you are allowing more, right? Then lead, so that obviously is the tone is set by the leadership. So what type of leadership behaviors we need to have today, I'll touch upon that as well in a while. But very importantly, company policies, we already saw that, right? Hiring, promotions, we really need to relook at rewards, to ensure everybody is addressed, right? Everybody is in addressed or covered. uh, Now I may say a word like revisiting judgment and unconscious bias. It's very easy said and done, but it's quite difficult actually. And this is something many companies are still grappling with, to find out how do we eliminate bias. But it's not going to happen, because we human beings are, uh, the reasoning mind, right? Reasoning capability, we are always going to weigh things and look at what is good, bad, and everything. But if we are taught self awareness and know that when we are being biased towards some certain things, we are not being objective, we should be able to be more self aware. So self awareness is a quality we need to bring out more and more, and start look at how we can get more self-aware managers, people who are aware that they are not practicing certain behaviors, or who are favoring certain people or others, right? That there should be that yardstick to know. Again, there are many companies which use the word resources. Oh, I'll hire this resource does a good job. So we need to avoid such words, because resource means a lump of people. It's like a herd, it's a crowd or herd. They are all, end of the day, everybody's an individual. So we need to start appreciating individualism, not start clubbing people in one category and then call them resources, right? So I think this is the software culture which uses the word resources, but we need to stop talking about people as if they are resources. This is very important. I've given some examples of how diversity and inclusion can go together. For example, today we really, there are jobs which need not be done today. A class 10 student is very savvy in Excel, can make presentations in a jiffy. So what we used to earlier say, somebody who's a MBA, it's not needed, right? Many jobs, if we really look at it, there are many jobs which we ask for a graduate or an engineer, we'll realize that can be need, that qualification need not really hold at the end of the day. We really need to revisit that, right? uh, there are companies where only men assume top positions, and we know there are many companies which are led by the most billionaires of the world, right? The most richest people, but only men assume the top positions, right? And it's a very patriarchal mindset where men dictate the laws and women listen, right? uh, Again, like I said, accessibility is going to be important. If you cannot provide accessibility, allow a work from home. At the same time, we can't have a situation where people who are remote feel out of sight, out of mind. Oh, you're no longer before my eyes, so I will share a joke with only a few groups. So you have to, as managers, need to understand that if you're going to have a hybrid work environment where some people are going to be at home, some are going to be in office, there has to be a way that everybody gets their equal share of attention. Again, words like auntie, uncle are very common, but respecting people, colleague as a colleague, and not even words like sir and madam, I find it very ageist, right? Like just because somebody with a little bit of gray, or somebody like me is called a ma'am, then I tell them, please, if you call me ma'am, I'm going to call you sir G, and I'll start doing this, fold my hands, and then they stop calling me ma'am. Because the more you use words like that, the more it makes you aware that there's a distance, right? Obviously, we all have prevention of sexual harassment policies. We need to also have policies for non-tolerance towards exclusive behaviors which exclusion oriented behaviors, which deride a community or make fun of, mock certain practices by people, maybe religion, it could be anything, right? But we need to, or jokes about a particular community, which we normally crack, and we accept it, but it's not cool to do that. uh, Again, I've noticed this, that there are cultural shows where, even if all the employees are Indians, right, there is a cultural show, or a the annual event, and then the whole theme will be Bollywood, and people will be talking in Hindi. There will be a person anchoring the show who talks in Hindi, but there are people who are not from Hindi speaking states, right? And we need to realize Hindi is not the all inclusive language for India, and there is no one language for that matter. However, putting subtitling or something, or subtext, so that people can catch what is happening. So, I mean, there has to be that kind of way in which you include everyone in the fun and the laughter. So this, you have just given some ideas, right? But the whole idea is to start thinking that way, and start thinking that what are we doing today, in which we are assuming that everybody will, we are covering majority wins. We can no longer adopt the mindset that majority wins, right? Again, a manager, now today the way we hire leaders will have to change, right? Typical leadership behaviors, it's old school behaviors, like aggression, people who are the command and control, who want to know everything and they will hold the strings together, or the personality A type micromanagers. That's no longer going to work, right? Or somebody who's, we say, okay, good English speaker can be a good CEO, right? All of that will not work anymore. You need people with more empathy, more listening, acceptance, facilitation, non-tolerance towards, people who are inclusive in their nature. Because when you're included, you're actually listening to others, you're understanding their pain, you understand that they're feeling excluded, that comes through a space of empathy, that comes from a space of self-awareness, right? And we all need to go back to the time, like how I went to my school journey, we all need to go back to the time how we felt when we were excluded, right? And that is the feeling we need to carry as managers and leaders, that how do we promote or foster a work environment where empathy is very important. It's no longer a nice to have. Empathy is going to be very critical as a skill. And if those of you follow Adam Grant, he writes a lot about empathy, and it's good for you to go through his articles on LinkedIn, uh, and his books. So I'm giving some examples of a few companies here, and some interesting ideas here. Some are companies you may know, some companies are unknown. So there is this company, Coupon Lawn. I like that, they celebrate Gay Rights Parade or Women's Day, and celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. or they do all these. There are companies I've heard who do the Pride Walk. Okay, there are many companies who celebrate those things, right? Um, this is a very good example of how this company is kind of masking photographs, ages, genders, and names, right? Anything that can give the identity of a candidate. So what happens is the hiring decision is not kind of colored by any of these things, right? It has taught us a lot about internalized biases we don't even know we have. This is very nice, and I like this a lot, so I just thought and I'll share this. uh, Alibaba, we all know the Alibaba Group by Jack Ma, right? Founded by Jack Ma, and he is a big. This company really believes in women as the secret sauce of their dominance in the online shopping. I mean, look at the kind of products you get in Alibaba, the wholesalers, and stuff that you get, because It's women who understand what is the market that is needed in all kinds of segments, right? More than one third of Alibaba's group founders are women, and in senior executive roles. Resume IO, right? Here they found that certain selection algorithms and artificial intelligence, bots that are there, right? They sometimes look at personal data and they find that this is, I think, was it Google or Microsoft, one of the companies, they had to eliminate their bot because it started looking at what normally people pick up, and it started putting it in as feeding it into the machine learning code. So uh, so uh, so they had to change the algorithm because what it started doing is, if the software started noticing, the bot started noticing, okay, this guy prefers hiring more women, so that means let me only push women resumes. So you have to change the algorithm of these machine learning tools, if in case you use Sephora. We all know, right? Many of us women, we know Sephora. It's a leader in the beauty space, right? uh, Apart from their they talk about potential rather than skills. So what they say is that we're not looking at whether you can already do something. We're just going to throw you open and let us see whether you can do it, right? So even women who are not techies, they move them into digital tech roles, and then that help women to rediscover themselves, and um, make them ready for a as a talent pipeline in the future, where they can easily take on technical roles, right? Which is a very great example. In fact, something which I feel, not just women, I mean, it's important to look at potential. I'm not saying just women alone, even all kinds of genders. We should look at how we look at potential rather than looking at only uh, physical traits. PNG example is what they do is very interesting. Is there is disagreement is viewed positively. So sometimes what we do is, everybody says yes. That one guy who says no, he's treated like, oh, a wet blanket, you are a killjoy, and he is like, and then he is excluded from all the decision making. So if you have ever felt that, where everybody listens to the boss, but if you say something on the contrary, you are not liked, right? So that is again an example of behavior where you feel excluded, right? So here they're looking at disagreement, viewing disagreement as a positive trait, and the more and encouraging debate and disagreement. And this is very contrary to what we are taught in India. We are taught to be happy, family, harmony. Oh, we are to be harmonious. But sometimes we can't be harmonious, because harmony talks about keeping everyone happy. But how do we make sure each individual is happy? Is by recognizing disagreement and accepting people's opinions and agreeing to disagree. It doesn't mean that you have to listen to everyone who disagrees, but telling them, hey, I know you disagree, but I think for now we are going to go with this. But respecting their disagreement is what is very important. Acknowledging their disagreement and respecting it, right? That's what we're talking about. I think that's all to my presentation. I hope I didn't take too long of your. I didn't go long. And these slides I found in Slides Carnival, and I really like the look of these slides. And and I have to give credit because I picked it from their site. You can find me on LinkedIn, and if you have any questions, you need any advice on careers, or you want you want to know more about learning and development, or advice on anything else, uh, you can always approach me. And I
Thank you.
thank Shenzyn again for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Murli, and thank you so much, Khushbu and Ankita. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Geeta. I think I was going to say that, the presentation itself looks so different from what we have seen from, the videos. So I think I mean, that itself kind of showed that, okay, this presentation is going to be interesting. And, talking about diversity inclusion, we have heard so many views from the company's point of view. But I think what you focused on more was about how you can bring change, or how you can change your perception from an individual standpoint. So I
Right.
think it's something that needs to be inculcated within everybody. So guys, as Geeta mentioned, we have last couple of like 3 to 4 minutes. In case people have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat box. I think we'll be able to take them. So, Geeta, one question is something that has been going around. So, you know, uh, as you rightly mentioned, that someone from creative industry, like agencies, like for example, agencies or production
Right,
houses, now are looking at new normal in a way that they have already started hiring people from all around India, and they are kind of saying that like I want more and more diverse talent to come because they bring their own set of expertise that we might not have here, and then they are
correct,
location free. So the trend looks, at least is projected that at least in the creative industry people are going to get hired from not only India but
right,
everywhere, and they are going to work like that, like from their own location. But do you
right.
think that in other industries also this trend can kind of go, because that can be beneficial for all bigger corporates as well? So what do you think, like can
Absolutely.
this trend go, pass on to other industries as well?
See, that's a very good question, Ankita. I mean, whoever has asked this question, it's really a brilliant question. And to answer that, I would only say that first of all, look at the word location. When would you need a location
Hmm.
specifically, right?
Right.
Real time, everyone to be there. I would say a performance industry where everyone needs to be there, right?
Right.
Earlier, if I had to even give a note to somebody, I had no email. I had to physically give. I remember I got a memo. You did a great job. When my boss wrote a small thing and pasted it on my desk. And
Right.
I had to write a note saying I want to go on leave, but we don't have that, we don't really need to be co-located in the same place to do something, right? I
Correct.
understand a time zone. I understand those things, right? Where if if it's a real time work we need to do on the same time zone, that could be a challenge, right? But otherwise we have to really look at, if not the whole company, maybe certain jobs, certain
Hmm.
roles
Correct.
can work virtual, right?
Ab-
And certain roles that require you to be there
Hmm.
physically.
Right.
See, like for example, schools, right? It's a crime if you don't let children play or interact with each other. How will they ever learn if you're just going to we are going to just make them go through virtual learning, right? When we say new normal, we
Hmm.
have to also realize that, see, I have been in the e-learning industry,
Hmm.
but I will never deny the beauty of a classroom.
Hmm.
When you have a management workshop, you meet other people, you shake hands with them, you get to know what's happening. A webinar like this is great, but the whole idea of being in a conference, having cookies together, having a cup of coffee, that's a different feel altogether, right? Because it's shared energies
Hmm.
across the table.
Hmm.
So one will never say that there will be no physical meeting ever, but it doesn't need to be as a mandate that everybody has to come together to work. So there has to be a fine balance between the two, is what I would say, but I leave it very broad and general. But personally feel that every job or every outcome that you need, like for example McDonald's, right? You can't really have them work virtually, right? I mean, how will the staff work virtually? I mean, they'll have to be together to cook the item, right? But yeah, I agree that the dining experience, if people are preferring to have it at home, then it's more of takeout, right?
Hmm.
But art act of actually cooking together, they need to be co-located. So there will be certain industries, certain jobs, certain professions where you need to be there
Right.
real time, right?
Correct.
So we'll have to examine that way.
Hmm. Right. 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 Okay, we have one more question. How do you ensure employees are prepared for change when you recruit diversity, especially from LGBTQ? I think we were kind of anticipating this question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be a long journey in India, right? Not only in India, many countries. It's going to be a long journey, right? It took us so long for women to be considered, like voices to be heard, and it like say that your salary, it's yours, right? Your, like a woman to say that this is my salary and I'm going to spend for whoever I like. I may want to give it to my family or whoever. Yeah, I can spend it for my own purpose. It's taken a long way, and that too, remember, we must remember, it's not all women, it's only people like us who are from urban societies.
Yeah.
I do know my domestic help, she still has to give her salary to her husband, right? And during this lockdown, he has no income, right? So what she does is she actually hides her income. She only has revealed to him some part of the income, the rest of it she takes from me in cash, and then she stash it stashes it somewhere. I don't know where, and maybe she must be giving it away to her family who needs the money, right? So that he doesn't question why are you giving money to them, so she doesn't have to ask him for that money. So it has come a long way. So to answer your question about LGBTQ, it is not going to be an easy ride, right? Especially a society like ours who jokes about them, doesn't even treat them like a human being. They're not treated like humans. They're not treated as equals. So for that to come, that change to come, is going to be um, a long journey. And if a company does take a bold step of hiring them, right, very importantly, then there has to be policies on education. Very importantly, education, sensitization, what will be allowed, what will not be allowed, right? Very importantly, um what kind of behaviors will make them uncomfortable, make people uncomfortable. How do you, so it'll be a lot of education awareness. But I also personally believe that the company also needs to start practicing non tolerance and take regular surveys from the LGBTQ employees to find out if they do feel excluded, right? That regular inclusion survey needs to be done, where people to feel, not only LGBTQ, everybody should be asked that, do you feel included? If you don't, then what is the reason, right? And that survey will help and the organization needs to reinforce, because a culture that reinforces, and may need to take some hard decisions. Maybe there are some top managers, even at the executive level, who are actually don't support, right? They may support because the CEO says it, but if their behavior does not conform, or the behavior does not accommodate, then the decisions the company has to take. It's not an easy thing, right? It's not a easy decision by any means, but there's no easy answer to this. Have I answered the question? uh, am I still audible? uh, yeah, I think, Ankita, I'm not able to hear you. uh, okay, I can't hear anyone. So if there's any other question or anything else, I'll have to. uh, Ankita, uh, please feel free to type your messages on chat in case you'd like to, and I'll be happy to take any questions even later on. Thank you, Anagha. Okay. Okay, Ankita, no worries. No worries. I think Ankita has a internet connectivity drop, so she'll join us soon. Nonetheless, I mean, anyone else, if anybody else has anything else to comment.
Hello.
Hello, yeah,
But
Ankita, now you're
actually,
back.
yeah, so sorry, so
Welcome back.
sorry.
No worries.
So sorry, my internet is gone, so I could I had to log in through mobile.
So, yeah, I don't see any more questions. But, guys, as Geeta mentioned, that in case you have anything that you kind of want to mull over during the weekend, or come back to, please feel free to get in touch with Geeta over LinkedIn. I'm sure she'll be more than happy to answer your questions. And I want to thank Geeta. Thank you so much for taking out time and giving us such a fresh perspective about how to even start thinking about diversity inclusion, as it's going to be one of the major significant elements in the coming future. So thank you so much for doing that. And thank you, audience. Thank you for joining in today. Thank you so much for your questions. And I hope that you are going to follow us for our future webinars also. We are coming up with a couple of really good webinars. So I hope you all will join there as well. And have a good weekend, and have a very good Diwali. Very happy Diwali to
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah. Happy Dhanteras. Happy Diwali to you all.
Happy
And
Diwali
once
to
again, thank you,
everybody.
Team Shenzhen, for giving me this opportunity. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Thank you
much.
so much, Geeta. Thank
Everybody
you.
stay safe and stay happy. Happy Diwali once again.
Thank you. Thank you, Geeta.
Thank you.
Sorry for the inconvenience in between.
No worries, no, not at all. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.